Why did you make me do this? You're fighting so you can watch everyone around you die! Think, Mark!
Oops. Sorry. I didn't do that on purpose. I meant to stop before hitting you, but your momentum carried my fist into your,
Captain Forrest here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over both these combatants to see who would win more often not in a cross-verse situation. Omni-Man from Invincible versus Saitama from One Punch Man. Now if you guys are new to my channel, please leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for further content. Also huge shoutouts to the HQ squad, massive shouts to the team, they've been a huge help in my videos. Also shoutouts to Phoenix for helping me with some of the Omni-Man section, and shoutouts to Carimbus for helping me with the Saitama section and also with some of the calcs in this video too. So anyway, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of things. I'm going to talk about Saitama, and I'm going to move on to Omni-Man, and then I'm going to give it all and chop it up in my analysis. So starting off with AP, there are some feats in the manga that Saitama performs where he was able to use a move called Serious Table Flip on one of Jupiter's moons called Io. The force behind the destruction which occurred on the moon was calced around the large planetary levels of attack potency. Another feat that was performed by Saitama was when he was able to sneeze away a large portion of Jupiter, which is pretty impressive. This insane feat was calced around the star level ranges of attack potency. I will display the calc and diagram of Jupiter for you guys to see. Another prominent feat for Saitama occurred in the same fight with Garou. Both combatants go back and forth with each other, delivering astronomical blows. The destructive force behind Saitama and Garou's attacks were so intense that the blast was going to literally vaporize the earth, and in order to avoid this, it required the help of some interdimensional fighters to transfer this destructive force away from the Earth, in which resulted in the blast completely vaporizing millions of stars. This was calced around the galaxy levels of attack potency. Very impressive. That's pretty much it for Saitama's AP. I'm going to go ahead and jump onto speed. After Saitama in his fight with Garou destroys Io, Saitama immediately darts around off all the floating rocks to blitz towards Garou and attack him with multiple punches. This feat was calced around the 63,000 times the speed of light and up into the 14 billion times, which is absolutely insane. That's easily an MFTL plus feat for Saitama. So that's going to round up Saitama's speed. Let's talk about some of Saitama's abilities and all that good jazz. So Saitama's move list is pretty straightforward, as a lot of his moves come from punching his opponents really hard. He can spam his consecutive normal punches to bombard the opponent, his serious punch, which is a more non-suppressed attack which hits the opponent with deadly force. Saitama's punches can deflect incoming projectile attacks. Saitama can also perform the serious squirt gun. When covered in a body of water, he can project from his hands a concussive blast of water with such force. Saitama's serious sneeze, as the title implies, Saitama sneezes with such force it can cover a huge area as it blows away and destroys anything in the way. Serious sideways jump, a move where Saitama moves so fast he creates countless after images and then sideways jumps with such speeds in order to blitz the opponent and hit them many times over. Killer move Serious Table Flip, a technique where Saitama digs his hand into the ground and with great force flips it off the floor, which destroys everything and the debris and objects cave onto the opponent. Lastly, Saitama was also able to learn how to affect and manipulate particles in order to rewind time itself. So that's it for Saitama. I'm going to go ahead, move on, talk about Omni-Man and see what he brings to the table. So in terms of attack potency, easily Omni-Man would range around the multi-continental to planetary ranges, as heroes like Brit have fought characters like Thoth and Seth whose powers threaten to devastate planets. Tech Jacket struggles to fight Viltrumites. Tech Jacket fought a villain named Null who fought their version of Galactus, who's a world eater threat. Omni-Man, alongside with his son Mark and another Viltrumite, destroyed their entire planet, but the context is that the insane heat could have killed them, so they had to work together to hit the exact mark to avoid overloading from the heat rather than the force. Now, why does Omni-Man scale to Tech Jacket and Brit? Omni-Man explains to Mark on how the Viltrumites themselves are the greatest threat to the galaxy, in the sense that they are unrivaled in terms of combat. As we see, Viltrumites prefer violence and combat. Omni-Man himself is also flat out stated to be the strongest hero on Earth, so naturally he would upscale. Omni-Man is also considered to be amongst the strongest members of his race, so this would also make sense and just add more consistency to it. Viltrumites themselves have consistently been stated to be planetary threats and destroy planets with ease if they felt like it. In a crossover, Omni-Man fought Supreme to a standstill, who can casually destroy planets with ease. This feat was calced around the 27.884 zetatons of TNT, aka small planetary. Now, that's going to wrap up Omni-Man's attack potency. Let's jump over and talk about speed. So there is a feat for Omni-Man where he flies a galactic distance. This was calced around the 3 billion times the speed of light. However, there is some context behind this, folks, which I failed to mention in my Nova vs Invincible video. Omni-Man would have to compress space in order to travel through space, but by doing so, this speed feat is slower, which this feat was calced around the 206 times the speed of light. Now, there is some contentions whether people accept this or not, but for the sake of things, I will still keep the 3 billion times the speed of light in this video, and I'll still mention it anyway. Now, there is another speed feat which was done by Alan the Alien, which Invincible scales to, and Omni-Man obviously upscales from Mark, and this would easily scale him to the 69,305 times the speed of light, aka massively faster than light plus, and as I said before, Omni-Man scales to this too. Okay, so that's going to round up speed. Let's go ahead and move over and talk about Omni-Man some more. So Omni-Man's Viltrumite physiology allows him to live for thousands of years, aging at a highly deaccelerated rate, and he grows more powerful with age. Viltrumite physiology aggressively self-repairs and adapts, and surviving near-death experiences only heightens their already impressive strength. Viltrumites can hold their breath in space for 2 weeks straight before gasping for air. Viltrumites have control over a unique substance in their bodies called smart atoms. These smart atoms have a variety of attributes, such as adapting their bodies to resist environmental changes to the body, such as venturing and holding their breath in space, needing oxygen less for survival. Smart atoms can also absorb the energy around the environment to aid survivability, and they also act as a natural force field to concussive attacks. Omni-Man can remove the gravity restrictions placed upon himself and other beings in order to allow himself to levitate and fly while maintaining his speed levels. Omni-Man is capable of generating shockwaves with a clap. Omni-Man is incredibly resilient, surviving massive beatings to the brink of death and being beaten up to a bloody mess, yet he's able to still get up and continue to fight. Even with these injuries, Omni-Man is still stated to have his full strength intact. Viltrumites are virtually inexhaustible in terms of stamina. Viltrumite cells are immune to every earthly poison, disease, and radiations. He is incredibly resilient to hot and cold temperatures, ranging up into the 3,588 Kelvin, the heat of a star, along with surviving temperatures down to the 158 Kelvin, near absolute zero temperatures. Viltrumites also have a rage boost amp, so depending on how serious the situation is, their stats increase when they are angry, so it's kind of like their own warrior's madness, but unfortunately it's a little bit unquantifiable. And lastly, Omni-Man has been training and fighting for over thousands of years, effectively becoming part of the elite members of the Viltrumites. So that's going to round up both these combatants. I'm going to go ahead give my thoughts on who I think wins more often than not in a cross-verse situation. Okay, so let's go over stats, folks. Now, in terms of attack potency, I gotta give this to Saitama. Large planetary, star to galaxy level is just way too big for Omni-Man. Omni-Man, at best, has planetary scaling, and even with that is just not enough. Even if you try to keep it in the planetary ranges for both combatants, Saitama scales very high into large planetary, and it's just ridiculous. The gap is just way too big. Speed, if you use the middle end, Omni-Man is just a little bit faster, but if we use like higher end speed stuff, Saitama would just blitz Omni-Man. You know, 14 billion times the speed of light in comparison to 69,000 times the speed of light. Or if we use the 3 billion, despite the context that I've addressed in this video, 3 billion is just way too slow in comparison to 14 billion. The gap is that huge, so I would have to give that to Saitama. Now, overall, there's not really much to deduce in this fight, unfortunately, just due to the stat difference being far too prominent and favoring Saitama more often than not. So I gotta give this to Saitama. He's just gonna blitz, he's gonna one-shot. There's just nothing Omni-Man can do, unfortunately. There's just way too much Saitama can do in this situation. Just has a lot more to work with, and he's just way too quick and way too strong. So I gotta give this to Saitama. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. But yes, it's been real. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.